Welcome back to another Basics GameMaker Studio tutorial, and this is a special one for those who want to develop for mobile devices, because let's face it, that stuff is important as well. And here a little trick question from the start: where is on your touchscreen the right mouse button? And if you're thinking, one up indie, this is of course so obvious and so easy, come on. Of course there is none on the touchscreen, and to that I say, sir, I salute you, but you're wrong. So if you want to know the answer to this question, plus how to use the touchscreen in gestures and the regular mouse input or inputs, stay tuned. And well, I'm gonna skip on my intro. This is One Up Indie. Hello. Subscribe if you like what you're seeing. So let's start off with the good stuff. So this is not really a mobile device because, well, I don't have the plugin for that, so I don't have the GameMaker version to actually make one for, I don't know, for Android or for iOS, but I can show you some things which are relevant for you. So for example, one is a tap, a double tap, or let's go for a grab, and these things are called gestures. And the other part is, let's say for example you're having your, let's go in here, you're having your game, and then you're having let's say one mouse, and then the mouse is just checking, hey, from time to time you need to press this button to jump, and you need to constantly press left or right. But then you're thinking, wait a second, this doesn't work, because you cannot press constantly a button here and then at the same time press with the same mouse a button from time to time to jump. So how does that actually work? Well, here is the super easy answers. You clone everything, you make a clone of a clone of a clone. So let's do this. This is how it works. So basically you have multiple mice, and this is how a touchscreen actually works. You have multiple inputs on a touchscreen, and for older devices you just have, as far as I know, 2 or 3, and you be like 99% well finished with that, because you don't actually need more inputs. But newer devices can actually go up to 10, as far as I know. And if you are an octopus and have, let's say, actually only 8, that actually doesn't work. So if you're having 8 tentacles, then you can actually utilize 8 at the same time. But since you are not Cthulhu or one of his friends, this is how you do it. So basically you have one mouse here, which can from time to time tap, and then you have another mouse which is just checking, hey, pressing this or pressing that. And the next thing, which is an obvious thing, you have done that bazillion times, which is tapping, which is just the same as a mouse click. And for example, if you double tap like 2 times in a rapid succession, then this is considered right mouse button click. This is actually the mysterium, so I actually gave it away. So basically the right mouse button on the touchscreen is a double tap, and it actually does work correctly here. Not sure why that is. I guess it's a standard. Yay, yay, yay. So the next thing, besides doing this cloning part, you have gestures, and this is the interesting part. So for example, you are tapping once or tapping twice, and this is easy. So this is just to do some stuff, let's say move around or jump or whatever. But let's say you have dragging, and dragging would be something like this, holding something and dragging it up and down. This is what you saw at the very start of the video. Or let's say a flick, and a flick is something like this, like a swipe movement, which is letting go. And all those things are single input or single input. So here the tap and the flicking and the dragging are single inputs, where you just need one mouse. But for the other things, which is a pinch or a rotate, you need 2 mice. So here, for example, a pinch, and this is actually an easy one. you go on a line. Let's say, for example, you are starting here and here, and then this one's going to the left and this one's going to the right on one line. And then, well, or you just go from one point where they're close and you just going up, going right, and this one to the left, or for example up and down, doesn't really matter. And where do you actually see this? Well, for zooming in or out. And of course rotating, I guess one mouse is static and the other one is rotating, and then, well, you rotate something. And these gestures are, well, industry standard in, well, your mobile device. So here, so you now hopefully understand what the difference is. And then you're seeing, okay, I'm having those events found at gestures, but then there is the global one. Just a few seconds, so you will understand what the difference is, because if you're saying, okay, global tap, tap, global double tap, double tap. So basically these are the same ones, but they have a different functionality. So no, let's go and do the easiest one, which could be a tap. But no, let's go very quickly to the cloning part, because we want to solve the riddle with those mice. So if you normally would go into a step event, then you would go for mouse, check, and let's say pressed, then mouse button left. This would be the regular thing which you do on the, I don't know, on your desktop PC. But this is just one mouse, and then you're pretty much stranded. And this is the same, for example, for, I don't know, where do we have mouse, and then you're having left, down, doesn't really matter. Yeah. But if you want to get the cloned version, you just go device, and here we go, the same thing, pressed. And then it does work the same, but here you need two inputs, which device you are using, and then, well, what kind of input you're having. And here, this is the difference. For example, theoretically, you can actually use gestures and the device, mouse, check button on the regular PC, but I don't really see any application. So for example, you can plug in actually 10 mice in your PC, and you could use them and utilize them. But let's face it, who has 10 at the same time? That would be so ridiculous. Funny, but ridiculous anyway. So this thing is rather used for multi-touch inputs on one touch screen. So here you need to understand, here you have 0, then, I don't know, you have the next one by 1, and this is how you solve your problem with multiple touches on a thing. So this is the first part. Let's go then to gestures, because I guess this could be interesting as well. And let's go for gesture and the tap. And what can we do? Basically, what you maybe want to do it very easily, so you understand, you just tap once or click once, which is in the end the same. It is registered kind of the same, but just have some quirks to it. And for example, what I do is just say, hey, if your image blend is white, then we go to red, and if not, well, go to white again. So we are just pressing once, and it does work beautifully. And this is just basically it, easy peasy stuff. And then, for example, we can do actually the same thing for a double tap, and this one we deactivate now. And double tap is a little more complex, but not really. You need to press in a rapid succession. So for example, if I press very slowly, like once, twice, nothing is happening. But if I go fast, it does work. And this is just basically it. You need to do this. Of course, if you want to change those parameters, because in the step event you could actually what is that, tap, let's go. You could actually change a few things, parameters, but I'm not going to go into some details because this is a very easy tutorial. You could actually change the timing, how much time you are giving the player for a double tap, but nah. Now we come to the more, well, let's say it complex part, because if you go under gestures, and this is where you find the thing, so under scripting, why the hell under scripting, doesn't really matter, controls, then gesture input, and then you're having the single input, flick, drag and tap, and then the double, which is pinch for zooming, and the rotating, well, for rotating. And then as you can see, there are some keys, which is the more, let's say, confusing part at the start, because let's say, for example, I want to drag something. Here we go. Here I will introduce to you a new kind of keyword, which is an inbuilt DS map, which is getting stored into the event data. So every time you do a gesture, then a DS map is being created, and in this DS map has lots of information stored, which you can take out and, well, do something with it. So for example, here, this is how the syntax works. It is just question mark, like, hey, what actually do you want? And then you put in the keyword in the DS map, and then it will return something. So here there are lots of keywords. We just go and take the easiest one, position X or position Y. So this is the position where you want to drag something. And this is, for example, drag start. Not gonna use this one. Let's go for dragging. Here we go. So we could actually say, hey, when we are dragging with our mouse on this specific object here, so this guy here, then as you can see, dragging. So here, gesture, dragging, then put this thing, so update the Y position on the event data, so the thing which we are stored, so basically the Y, and then we can actually already instantly drag, which is kind of neat. So for example, we are holding the mouse button, as you can see, we can drag that thing. But as you can see, for example, if I do this, it does work good, but if I go slower, it kind of jumps, which is a thing which you need to offset. I will give you a quick fix for this, but what you can see, it already does work. So for example, the gesture, it is working, and that event data, which is being created in the event, and then after that it's being deleted instantly. So for example, you can go event data and, I don't know, put it into the draw event. It would return, I don't know, nothing, or per default it's -1. So don't do this. This thing just quickly lives in the event, and after the event is done, it's getting deleted instantly, and then it's basically gone. So this is the thing which you need to understand. Of course, there are lots of other things which you can take out and define and so on, yada yada yada. Not gonna go into that because, well, I want to make it easy. So I have a little offset variable, which is at the start, it's just 0, it doesn't really matter. And for example, you have different drag events. So let's go for gesture and drag start, dragging. So this is the constant thing when you're holding, and this is just being updated once. And this is updated only once you let go. So basically this is the same as pressed, released, or what is the other one, check constantly. So here we go into drag start, and what we do, we just say, hey, our current Y position of that thing here, of that object, minus the thing which we are taking out of the event data. This one you can ignore. This is just for things, so I can actually check it out. So here once again, event data, give me the Y position of the dragging minus here, and this is a little offset, and then this offset we add, and then for example, once we started anew, then this thing looks good. So for example, top, no problem, but here, no problem as well. And then of course, I just say, hey, mouse, this is so you can actually see the movement, mouse position, the Y position of that thing, and then the event data, which is returning a value, which is this thing here, position Y. So you can actually see it, real time here. So hopefully that was not too difficult to understand. And now the last thing, or the almost last thing which I did. So for example, let's say, but you're having this one object and this one and this one and this one, and they kind of overlap. If you do a movement globally, and this is a thing which I'm gonna show you, then all those things which have a global event will be affected by it. So what do I mean by that? So let's say, come on, we go events, gesture, and let's say we go for a double tap, but on the global part. And here, this is the interesting part, because global just means it doesn't really matter where you click it, it is being applied to everybody. So let's go for double tapping. Take this one, take it away, but go for the global one, put the code in. So for example, if I would double tap, we are affecting everything. So here, just keep that in mind. Now, for example, if we are double tapping, so let's kill the double tap. Yeah, we don't need it. The global one, bye bye. So this is, first of all, the first part which you need to understand. Global is, doesn't really matter where you do the gesture, it works for everything. And for example, we want to double tap. Come on, come on, come on. If I would do this, everything is being applied as well. If you're thinking, wait a second, why is everything applied? Because here, this is the tricky part with gestures. Gestures are overlaying everything, and therefore it doesn't say like, it just only applies to the sprite, so the object here, it goes through all of them. So for example, if I would click here, as you can see now, there is no overlapping. So if a gesture is happening, it goes through all the layers which are behind. So just keep that in mind. So once again, global just means it doesn't really matter where you do the gesture. And well, let's call it then local. So gesture, these are local ones, and they are defined by the sprite which you put in. So for example, if you're having no sprite, doesn't work. So for example, if I would do something like this, I guess it will throw an error for instantly. Yeah, because he's trying to draw it. Never mind that. But this doesn't work. So here, locally, you need a sprite assigned, and then the bounding box. So this, let's go, bounding box. So or the collision mask, that thing here, it will take that into consideration where you do the gesture, and then you can only work on this part. And of course, if you say, hey, I don't want that, I want to do that everywhere, well, you go for global gestures. So once again, to recap very quickly, multi-touch, Brazilian mouse for touch screens, then you can do, well, different inputs, and then you can do that simultaneously, which is the idea behind the touch screen. And then of course you have those standardized gestures, which the ones are for one mouse, so a single input, tapping, double tapping, dragging, so holding and going down, or flicking, which is this guy here, or just call it swiping, doesn't really matter. And then of course pinching. So what could be the application for that? Well, the tap and double tap to assign something if you like, or activate something, very easy. But let's say for dragging, this could be used for slingshots like in Angry Birds, flicking for if you want to go to let's say another side. So this is basically used quite a lot for if you want to scroll at some point, or just, I don't know, you're having like sites on an e-reader, so something like this, and then you go from one to the other one. This is where you use the flick or the swipe, doesn't really matter, it's the same. And of course pinching, this is for zooming in and out. Then rotating, well, rotating. Hopefully that was kind of a comprehensive guide. I know it is kind of difficult to understand those keywords, but if you want to go into that, well, I guess you need to understand how they work. So this is just the beginner's guide, so you understand what the difference is. So here, touchscreen, multiple mouse, and the regular ones. What kind of inputs we have with a keyboard, the mouse, and a joypad. Yeah, so that was it for today. And good night, or maybe even good morning. Bye bye.